Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's career conversation. Thank you for joining us, everyone in person. Thank you to everyone who came on Zoom. My name is Linus Cackley. I'm the program coordinator for FutureTech Careers. You can think of FutureTech Careers like a career services department that is specialized to help you in the IT or advanced manufacturing programs here at GRCC. What you're sitting at right now is a career conversation. These events exist to help you understand more about the pathways and the careers available to you in the IT and advanced manufacturing industries, as well as to help you build skills that will serve you later on in your career. So today we're happy to be joined by Consuelo White, who's one of our job developers here at GRCC, and she'll be leading a career conversation on resume writing. Consuelo, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction, Linus. I appreciate that. So, what I would like to do first is start off a little bit of a little introduction about myself. Again, my name is Consuelo White, and I am a job developer here at GRCC. And I would like to begin a little bit about myself. I like to travel. I love going to concerts and just hustle classes. That kind of gets me going. I am a proud GRCC graduate with my associates in liberal arts. Do I use it? Not trying to be funny, I don't, but it was a good thing to have. Um, but my role is working with students, providing support and network opportunities with employers. If there's any questions or if anybody have anything that they would like to say, please just stop me and we can have a conversation as I'm presenting. First and foremost, I would like to go over to about resumes. Resumes are very important because it tells a background and let the companies know what it is that you're doing. It also gives you some information about your work history. A lot of people miss key points about the resumes. So what I will be doing is I'll be going over key points, but I will not be reading them like individuals. So if you guys have any questions or any concerns, please stop me. The first thing that I would like to point out will be your name and contact information. With your name and contact information, that is very important because a lot of people have like nicknames that they will want to use on a resume. Please do not use that. Use your government name. Also, have a professional email address. You might be called Hot Babe on YouTube or whatever the case may be, but make sure you have a professional email and a good telephone number as well. The objective. With the objective, we always do that last, but the objective is like maybe like a couple sentence, and that will tell the format of what type of job you're looking for. And then it can also sum it up with your work history as well about what you're looking for. Like if you're seeking a position with nursing and you have your associates in nursing, you can also say that I'm seeking my position in nursing. I received my associate degree or whatever the case may be, but tell a little bit where it will give I'll say the employer something to go off of because you got to remember one application to 1,000 people are applying for the same position. So you want your resume to stand out. Then we go to the education part. And with the education part, I always tell people like if you're going to school at a community college, put that on there first. Do not put your high school on there because you don't need your high school because they already know that you have actually graduated from high school. So definitely put any certifications that you may have, or just like if you got a certification in CNA, you can also add that. Or if you're going to school currently, I definitely would say put GRCC, but put your completion date. Do not put the date that you started. They just want to know when you're going to complete the degree. Next will be your work history. So, with your work history, those are very key elements. And what people don't realize is that with your work history, it tells something. So, like a lot of students that I have been running into, not saying that all students, but just some students, they do not have like an employment history. That does not look good to hiring managers. And the reason why I say that, because I have been in a lot of different places where I have talked to hiring managers. They want to see if you can work with the team. They want to see if you can collaborate with the team. They want to see if you're punctual. What, like if you're supposed to be there at 7 a.m., you don't arrive between 7:30 and 8 o'clock unless it's a flexible shift. But they want to see if you'll be a good fit for them. A lot of people miss on their resumes is that when you are doing those things, make sure that your work history is in order. So like if you're currently working at Home Depot and you started in April of 2021 and you're currently working, that will be your work history. That will be the first one. And then anything that's after that, then it'll be sequences. So I do run into some people who will just put any type of work history. They don't put any bullet points. The more bullet points that you can describe about your daily tasks that you do there, that looks better for your bullet points. You don't want to just say, well, if you're a cashier, I just do customer service and that's it. You got to give some meat, you got to give some potatoes to your resume. And I always say with a resume, when you are applying for a position, please, please, please tailor it to whatever company you are applying it to. You can also have just like the meat of the potatoes of the resume where you wouldn't have to go and figure out like your work history, but you always want to tailor your resume to wherever you're applying to. Skills are very important. And like I said, like if you have customer service, if you have CPR, that's a certificate that you should put on there. If you have anything that's like Express, I mean like Word or like anything Excel, you can add those as well because those are like your skills. So any of the skills that you have developed over time, definitely add those. But you want to make sure that your skills will be relatable to the position that you're applying to. Is there any questions? Good. Okay, so we're going to move right along. So, with a cover letter, this right here, a lot of people miss this with your cover letter. This is where you can kind of talk about yourself, but then you can enhance your skills on why you'll be a good qualifying candidate for a company that you're applying to. So, like it says, like with salutation and date, please make sure that like if you do know, like put the date, like if it's today, March 30th, 2026, put that date on there. If you know who the hiring manager is that you have already hired, that you did your first interview with, definitely put their name on there, dear sir or ma'am or, Mr. or whomever it may be. Give the purpose of why you're applying to the position. A lot of people miss that little small detail. You want to give them a purpose of why you're applying to the position. Maybe it could be something that will be a good fit for you or whatever the skills or the qualifications that you have right now. That could be a good purpose. Your qualifications, that's when you can go a little bit more detail about your qualifications, your skills, what you have to offer, like certifications or basically like if you have any other skills that may be an enhancement for you to get that position. And then it also goes to your skills and experience of how long you have actually worked on a job before or whatever job you're applying to. Follow up contact, make sure your follow up contact is very important. There again, I always say make sure it's professional. Make sure that you have a working email. If you don't have a working email, at least try to have a working telephone number where you can get messages and then your signature. Is there any other questions? Okay. References, do not put your references on your resume because they will ask you if they want to move forward. You don't have to have references upon on your resume. That's just something that they used to do that, but you don't have to have that. And I always tell people when you do have references, please make sure that you were able to get in contact with the people that you're putting down for a reference. Sometimes it looks better with if it was a previous employer, like your hiring manager, or it could be an employer that you worked with before, or it could be like an instructor. But you want to make sure that those references will be applicable to what you're doing. And then also that if you have questions, if they need to follow up, you can let them know. And how I can help. As a job developer, I work with people with their resume building. I also work with people with mock interviews, with cover letters as well. So, like with me, my contact information was up on the front, which would be my first name and last name at grcc.edu. You can also make an appointment with me through Calendly. So, you can look on my calendar. We can set up an appointment that way. We can also, and I also like if you guys have a resume, it'll be easier if you send it to me directly, then I can look at it and then we can work on it together. It's up to you guys whether you want to come in person or if you want to come into, we can do it on Zoom. And with the mock interviews, I definitely will tell people to do mock interviews, because the reason why I'll say that is because it kind of steps you out of just being prepared. Because some people don't know how to interview correctly when it comes to like mock interviews. And you're nervous. You don't know what type of dress code you want to wear. You don't know what time you should arrive. So with that being said, with mock interviews, we have like the most common questions that we kind of use is not going to be the same of what the company will use, but it will get you prepared and get your gears turning of how you should answer or respond to your questions. And that's all I have. Is there any questions?
Thank you so much, Consuelo.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we are moving into the question and answer section of this event, if you have a question in person, please raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone to you. That way, the folks on Zoom can hear your question. And then, if you are on Zoom, please feel free to drop your question in the chat, and then I'll read it aloud so that we can all hear it in the auditorium.
Thank you, Consuelo.
Thank you.
So my question is, I know that some of the larger like enterprise and companies use um, they scan resumes for keywords that are part of the job without even like really going through. Do you recommend putting those keywords into like the objective section or the skill section, or kind of both?
I would say both, because I feel like when you put them in both, it can stand out, but you don't want to lie on your resume either. And so you don't want it to make it so like AI just created your resume without your input. So when you are doing a resume, you want to make sure that it is tailored comparatively to what you are saying that is truthful. Because like if you say that I'm a welder, and they ask you for like some qualifications on how to, do like a MIG TIG type of thing, and you don't know how to do it, it'll kind of bust you out and say that you wasn't, you lied on your resume. So I always tell people use keywords. Definitely stand out with keywords on both. Hmm.
Thanks, Consuelo.
Welcome.
This might be geared more towards those of us who are a little bit older or have more work history, but what are your thoughts about a two-page resume
If
if you
you
have the work experience for
Okay. If you, for example, with people who have more work history, we do not discriminate with a two-page resume. It's just basically because you have so much, but then you still want to kind of reduce it where it's not as much. So I guess that's like a hard question to ask, but I mean, answer. But I definitely would say if you have more work ethics and it's going to stand out with whatever position that you're applying to, it will probably be better to put the two-page resume on there, because some people have like more education, some people have more work experience, some people have more skills than just a one-pager. So if you need to have a two-page resume, I don't see that being a problem, because I work with a student that was he had a two-page resume and he reduced it from 3 pages to 2 pages, and so he put the more precise and important information on his resume that he needed to land the job that he needed.
I have a follow-up question to
Mm-hmm.
that. So, on the flip side, if you're someone who has not as much work experience, maybe you haven't had your first full-time job yet,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts on including like volunteer experience or, student projects in school on a resume as a way to fill up space and show that you have skills even though you haven't had formal work experience?
We definitely use that. We definitely use that. And I definitely encourage students to do that, because if you don't have any work history, I definitely would say put volunteer on there, because that is still saying that actually you are punctual. Then it's showing that you're a team player, but then it also shows that your work ethics as well. When you're in school, when we like, for example, like with job training students, I know some job training students don't have like a certain experience in residential construction, but we will add that as though like since they're getting like maybe 650 hours or whatever, that's giving them the experience. That's showing the punctuality. That's showing the experience that they do have, the skills that they do have, not the experience, but the skills that they have. So that can help them to leverage, like, okay, I am familiar with reading blueprints, I'm familiar with working with a team, I'm familiar with asking questions, I'm familiar with these wiring. So I definitely always have students add that to their resume for a one pager to have that filled in. Yes.
Thanks, Consuelo. Would
You're
you
welcome.
advise a client to make sure on their LinkedIn page to put their resume on it?
You know what? I wouldn't say per se, me personally, because I have not used LinkedIn as putting my resume on there. I'm not going to say that it's a bad thing. I just will say if you are using LinkedIn, make sure that it's private, your settings are correct so that everybody cannot see your personal information. And you will have to update your LinkedIn page to make sure that it's updated and that people cannot utilize your information for the wrong source. So with LinkedIn page, I know that that is actually a good way of people getting out there for looking for a job. That's how they put their projects on there. That's how you can do your networking opportunities as well with different companies. So I definitely would say if you know how to utilize the LinkedIn page, make sure that you pay attention to it and update your information. So
As a reminder, if you're on Zoom, feel free to drop your question in the chat and I can read it aloud so that Consuelo can respond. I have a question for you, Consuelo.
yeah.
What is a very common mistake you see on resumes when working with students?
What I see on a common mistake for resumes is basically a lot of people do not use like their government name and they don't use a professional email. They don't give enough bullet points for their resumes when they're doing work history. So, like, if you ask them a question, like if I was working at Arby's and I was a crew member, they'll just say, well, I'm a crew member. They wouldn't tell you the city where it was. They wouldn't know the dates of when they started the position and when they quit. They'll give you one bullet point. So it wouldn't be as significant as it should be. I think a lot of students run into areas of like if somebody asks you to do a resume, sometimes they may not be familiar with it. It could be like the template that they could be using because there is some people that are really good with doing their resumes where they want to do like the pictures and do all this graphic. But when you're doing an uploaded resume, you want your resume to be clean. So I just say that the format could be a little bit different than some. And then one thing that I have learned for myself is that I didn't, I remember I forgot to put it in a PDF form. So with a PDF form, that means nobody can touch your resume. Once you upload it, it's there. But if you don't and you have it in Word doc, anybody can kind of go back and mess with it and then your format is off. So that's what I kind of run into like with students. And it's not to say that students are doing a bad job or anything, but it all depends on how determined you want to get a job. Some people may not want a job at this time, and I respect that. But if you're determined to get a job, you're gonna have to kind of put in the effort for your resume to build it up.
Thank you.
When you say professional email, can you give an example of that?
For a professional email, I always will say your first name, last name at gmail.com. That's a professional email to me. I mean, like if you have a nickname or just a personal email that you like to use is like mcherry at yahoo.org or whatever. To me, that's not, I will say a professional email will be your name. And I always tell students that because if you have your name, at least it will go right directly to you. And then, and if you're going to use that professional email on your resume and you forget to say, like, if it's a name that they call you like low dog or whatever the case may be, that's not professional because a lot of people don't realize that employers are weeding you out. They're weeding us out. And I'm going to put me in there because they can weed you out. Like if it's not a certain word or if it's not a certain skill that they're looking for, if they don't feel like it aligns to their skill set, they can weed you out. If you stay in Kentwood and it's in Greenville, they can look at it like, will they be willing to come, to Greenville for something, because a lot of things is that they use that for elimination. So if it's not a keyword, if you're staying out of town, or if you want remote work, they eliminate all resumes.
Any more questions? All right, looks like we have come to an end of this event. Consuelo, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Can I steal the clicker from you? Here it
Yes.
is.
Mhm.
So, as we wrap up, I'll just give a couple brief announcements related to FutureTech. So, if you enjoyed this career conversation, good news. We do these multiple times per week throughout the semester, and our next one is actually tomorrow. It's going to be in the same spot, 5 to 6 p.m. On Zoom or in person. We'll have Brittany Carlson, who's a UX manager at Corewell Health, coming in. Ooh, almost dropped that. Coming in to talk about her path from being a student to where she is now at Corewell Health. She started as a UX intern at Corewell and has stayed there for 14 years now. So she has a very interesting path. If you're interested in learning about the careers in UX design or just what UX design is, this is a great opportunity to learn more. Now, moving on to our last slide, if this is your first Future Tech event, we would love it if you could scan the QR code on the top right. That will take you to our interest form, which gives you a space to share your email so that we can follow up with you after this event and tell you what's next in Future Tech. And if this is not your first Future Tech event, you know the drill. We'd love it if you could scan the bottom right QR code. That will take you to the event attendance or feedback form. And this is a way for you to say, hey, I was here, and we can track to make sure you're meeting your 2-hour monthly engagement goal. As I've been mentioning at the last few events, we now have a badging form embedded within the event attendance form as well. By attending just this career conversation, you're eligible to receive a Professionalism Core 1 badge. That's a way of demonstrating the skills you're building to employers on your LinkedIn page, and there's more information about how you can receive all 9 badges in that badging form. With that being said, if you have any questions about future tech careers, I'll be sticking around for a few minutes after this event. And if you have any questions for Consuelo about your resume, feel free to come up after. That being said, this is the formal end of this event. Thank you so much to everyone who came and joined us in person. Thank you to everyone who joined on Zoom. Thank you to Adam and Kevin from our media tech department for making this video look so nice for our Zoom attendees. And finally, thank you so much, Consuelo, for a wonderful presentation.